Greetings. Yes, it's back. Welcome to Life Love Lessons, Series 3 for the Children's Sake. The focus of Series 3 is the future, our future, and the future of our faith, namely our children, our youth, and the lessons they need to empower them to create a life they love and to access the more abundant life Christ promised. Join me, Teacher Hazel, on Mondays at 6 p.m. for Life Love Lessons, Series 3 for the Children's Sake, on my YouTube channel, Abundant Life Mastery at the C.A.L.L. See you there.
Hello, greetings, and welcome to Life Love Lessons, Series 3 for the Children's Sake. And today we begin with Lesson 7. Yes, and before we get going, let me apologize for a little hitch that went on Lesson 6. So that when you go back to Lesson 6, or if you haven't seen it, when you go to it, you will find that there is a silent movie for a little while at the beginning. So you'll excuse me for pressing some knob that I should not have pressed. And there was a bit of silence. But don't panic. The voice will come back and things will go smoothly after that. So thank you for your understanding. And yes, we are into Lesson 7, Life Love Lessons, Series 3, for the Children's Sake. Let us begin with an acknowledgement of our Creator and Sustainer. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God sustains us. Wherever we are, God is. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I thank God for you, and I thank you for being here with me to share these moments. Just to let you know, I am Reverend Dr. Teacher Hazel Ann Gibbs de Pisa, better known as Teacher Hazel. I'm a teacher by profession, now retired after 50 years service to the education system. I'm a teacher by calling. Teaching is my ministry. I'm also a transformational life coach and a life mastery consultant. Principal of the Herman Parish Spiritual Baptist Southland School of Theology of Trinidad and Tobago, established in 1981, and director and co-founder of the Foundation for the Academic Advancement of Spiritual Baptist Youth. It's a scholarship program, a spiritual Baptist solution for a spiritual Baptist problem, established in 1998. And so, welcome again to Life Love Lessons for the Children's Sake, Living the Christ Life. And we are at Lesson 7, Universal Laws. And this is part 2 of the Universal Laws. We've done part 1 last Monday, and today we are continuing to close off that topic, universal laws. And let me, as usual, give you my intention. So, series 3 of Life Love Lessons for the Children's Sake, Living the Christ Life, is intended to encourage you for the children's sake, to empower our children. We've dealt with women of faith, we've dealt with men in mind, and we're now focusing on the children so that they may access the more abundant life Christ promised, to actuate them to live a life they love and love the life they live, and to maintain the authenticity of the spiritual Baptist Christian faith. So that's my intention. And now we go to our topic, universal laws. And as we continue to visit some universal laws, you will remember that they are the laws that govern the universe. Laws that function whether we know them or not, whether we believe them or not, whether we accept them or not. They are principles that define how things work. So a universal law is like an invisible code guiding everything. And of course, for an example, we use one that we're all familiar with, gravity. So we know that with gravity, whatever you throw up will come falling down, as the feather is doing in the picture. Because universal law is a law that operates in a predictable way, whether you believe it or not. So the law doesn't change to suit anyone. The law functions in the way that it is intended. So we were looking at 8 essential universal laws. Essential because unlike gravity and electricity and electromagnetism that we mentioned and worked with, which pertain more to our physical being and comfort, these laws pertain more to our spiritual being and comfort. Yes? You will remember we are spiritual beings sojourning in physical form, having a human experience. And you remember that in addition to our 5 physical senses, we have 6 spiritual senses or super senses. Anyone remembers them? Imagination, intuition, perception, memory, reason, and will. If by chance you've forgotten, review the first 3 lessons in this series, namely grounding, growing, and learning, and you will refresh your memory. Yes. So in lesson 6, we considered the first 4 laws. So they're ticked off: vibration, attraction, deliberate creation, and allowing. And for lesson 7, we are going to go on to abundance, pure potentiality, detachment, and polarity. So let us first review the 4 that we've already done. And everything is energy, energy vibrates. Which law is that? That's the law of vibration, and the first and basic law. Everything is energy, and energy is in constant motion, vibrating at different frequencies, right? And if you look at the blue picture below, you'd see the movement of energy and vibration. The second law: vibrations attract like vibrations. And that is, yes, the law of attraction. Vibrations attract like vibrations. Therefore, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And what you focus on, you attract and you receive. and you see the attraction of all the little bulbs and sticks that appear in the second picture there, the law of attraction. Yes. And of course, I'm sure you will remember our looking at Paul's advice to us in Philippians 4, when he told us whatsoever things are true and whatsoever things are honest and just and pure and lovely and good and of good report. He said to think on these things, things that are virtue and things that have praise in them. And the reason he told us that is because he was aware of the law of attraction, that vibrations attract like vibrations. So he was advising us to keep on the higher vibrations, truth and honesty and justice and purity and loveliness, so that we will attract those vibrations toward us. Okay, so now it's the third one. Deliberate creation is offering a vibration knowingly. Yes, the law is the law of deliberate creation. So, because of your knowledge of the laws of vibration and attraction, you can choose what you want to experience in your life. And of course, you do, either by default or by choice. If you ignore the laws and you just go along, then you will choose what you experience by default because of the thoughts that you have and the vibrations you're functioning on. But if you decide where to focus your energy, then you will choose the life that you want to live. All right, so let's get out of the default mode, because we know that when we look back at some of the things we've learned in earlier lessons, right, that your perception is your reality, and therefore, if your perception is skewed, then your reality is not going to be what you really would like it to be. And the fourth one, accept what is, allow others to be. Yes, that's the law of allowing. You go with the flow of the universe. You let go and you let God, because He is the creator of the universe. He maintains and sustains. Yes? So offer no resistance. In other words, don't row your boat upstream if the flow is going downstream, because then you're putting up resistance and you are denying the law of allowing. Okay, so make life easy. So today we continue with the next four laws, as we said: abundance, pure potentiality, detachment, and polarity. So let's start with the law of abundance. And yes, those are abundant fields, aren't they pretty? Yes. The universe is abundant. You know, God said to us in Malachi, prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it. You see, our sufficiency is of God. Because the truth is that we live in a world where, spiritually and energetically speaking, there is an unlimited supply of goods. We are eternal beings in physical form. So, well being and abundance are the basis of our universe. But we have been taught to feel that we are not enough and that we don't have enough and that we don't do enough and that there is not enough, that there's scarcity and there's lack. And we believe those lies that we have been taught. And therefore, our thoughts of scarcity and lack keep us in scarcity and lack. So it is time for us to learn to tap into the truth of our real being. and learn how to vibrate in abundance because God provided an abundant setting for us. And He is so good that He went a little further. When He saw that we didn't know too well what we were doing, He sent His Son to give us more abundant life. So we couldn't get more if we didn't have already, right? So the universe is abundant, everything is sufficient, right? Our sufficiency is of God. But man decides to shift things a bit and to hoard sometimes and to set up things so that some people end up without. But it's not that there isn't enough. Our world is a world of sufficiency and abundance because our God is limitless. Yes? And what's the next law? The next one is the law of pure potentiality. And that says that everything is possible. Whatever dream we can dream, it is possible. But we have to dream it. We have to dream it. But we have been pushed into a box where we forget how to dream. And we need to get back to that stage. And the reason we need to get back to that stage is so that those little ones coming will be taught the correct thing. And we'll get out of the old box that they put us in and recognize that the potential of the universe and everything in it is unlimited. Our limitations are created by our thoughts, our beliefs, and our perceptions. But the spirit, which is our true self and the essence of our being, is free to access the pure potentiality of our Creator. If we think we can or we think we can't, we are right because we follow our thoughts and our perceptions. But we need to always remember that with God, all things are possible. And that's the law of pure potentiality. All things are possible. So we must not limit ourselves, fit ourselves into a little box that's uncomfortable when there is so much more available. Yes? And the next one, the law of detachment. And again, let go and let God. Let go and let God. You know, very often we have a problem and we pray about it and we say, God, you handle this for me. And then when we get up, we start wondering, so how am I going to fix this? So what have we just done? We've taken back what we've given him. We give it to him and we say, you take care of it. I can't handle it. And then as we finish saying that, we start working on fixing it for ourselves. We have to learn to let go. There is a law of detachment that when we let it go, that's when it blossoms. And if it's for us, it comes right back to us in a much bigger way. I would have spoken about the question of the attraction with the old car. You know, when we focus our energy on the old car, we want a new one, but we think about that for 1 second and then we spend the next few hours arguing about the old car and complaining about the old car. Yes? But we have to let go. And that's the law of detachment. Until we let go, we don't make room for the new one to come in. Okay? So, of course, we ask God to teach us how to wait. Teach us how to wait. And I'm sure by now you would have noticed that the essential laws work in harmony with each other. So we started off with vibration and attraction. And you'd recognize that the very vibration attracts like vibration. So the laws of vibration and attraction work in harmony, right? And then we moved from attraction to deliberate creation. And when you understand the law of attraction, it means that you can choose your thoughts so that you focus on what you want, and therefore you deliberately create the life you want to live, rather than live the life that comes your way because of your thoughts and your perception. But if you're not aware of the laws, then you go ahead with all the negative thoughts and all the complaining and all the scarcity and lack in your mind. And then the life continues in that way. Because that's what you're attracting, that's what you're thinking, that's what you're focusing on, that's where your energy is going. And therefore, that's what you're drawing to you. Vibrations attract like vibrations, right? And I would have said to you that while we've been told that opposites attract, that does not apply in terms of our spirituality, okay? Because in the spirit realm, in the realm of thought and vibration and energy, vibrations attract like vibrations. They do not attract opposite. So, as Paul says, think about the things that are lovely and pure. Put your focus there, your energy will go there, and therefore your vibration will function at a frequency that attracts things that are lovely and pure and true to you. So, the law of detachment, which is the one that we're on now, that is the ultimate act of allowing. So, you see how they're all connected, right? So, the law of allowing, where we learn to let go and allow things, where we allow others to be who they are and allow ourselves to be who we are and stop complaining and comparing, right? The law of allowing. Detachment, when you can let go. So it is what it is. Remember in the lessons on forgiveness? It is what it is. Accept it, right? Harvest the good. Forgive all the rest. And that way you make room. You're detaching yourself from the negative aspects and you're making room for more positive things to come to you. So you get to the point where you can let go, where you can trust God to know what to do. Yes? So that the law of detachment operates on trust. And one of my mentors puts trust as to rely unto spirit totally. To rely unto spirit totally. Trust. Yes, so that you can let go and let God have his way. Because he always knows what's best. So detachment is the ultimate act of allowing. And the law of abundance, which we spoke of earlier, that links to the next one that we're coming up with now, and that is pure potential. Oh, sorry, polarity. Yes, we just did pure potentiality. Polarity. Yes. So we we've looked at those that went before, right? And abundance and pure potentiality are linked because everything is possible, pure potentiality, and there is abundance. The two are the same, right? Different sides of the same coin. Okay? So we understand the linkages, and we go now to the law of polarity. And what does polarity see? Polarity represents the two extremes of one thing which is the same thing. Now, what are you saying? The two extremes of one thing which is the same thing. So we have fire and we have ice. So that's like hot and cold. And the law of polarity says that everything has an opposite. So you have hot, and you understand hot because you have cold. But hot and cold are the same thing, temperature. That's the same thing. It's temperature. So you're on one extreme end of temperature, you get to hot. On the other extreme end of temperature, you get to cold. So polarity represents the two extremes of one thing, which is the same thing. On one end, it's hot. On the other end, it's cold. They're both temperature, right? So good on one end, bad on the other end. That quality from one extreme to the next, up and down. So we're talking vertical distance, up and down. They're both on the same strain, the same vein, one extreme to the next extreme. Polarity represents the two extremes of one thing, which is the same thing. And it says that everything has an opposite. And that is the nature of the human experience that our spiritual being is living in. So that it tells us then about the duality of life. Because you are both a spiritual being and a human being. And we like to either or, but we're not really either or, we're both and. Because when you say temperature, it includes heat, it includes cold, because they're both on the same strain. All right? I'm a spiritual being and I'm a human being. If you take one away, then you no longer have me. Both ends. Yes? And you will remember that we learned that everything is created twice when we were looking at the spiritual senses, that everything is created twice, so that it has to be created in the thought world, in the imagination. The focus has to go on it, right? So that's the spiritual aspect. And then in order for it to manifest, we have to do the physical action, the creation of it, and then you get whatever it is. So that the chair that I'm sitting on and that you are sitting on, first it was a thought, and somebody focused on the thought, put their energy into it, and began to work, do the action to create it, and then it manifested in the form, the physical form of a chair for us to sit on. And everything that has manifested in the physical form was first in the spiritual or thought form, right? Everything is created twice. So that the law of polarity takes us back to the whole question of the vibration and the attraction, and to the super senses that we would have learned about in an earlier lesson. Yes? And you'll notice the emblem there of yin and yang, right? The two aspects of our being So the law of polarity says that on this plane, there's always opposite ends, right? So there is the duality of life. So when it's hot, you may object and you may complain, and it gets cold, so the temperature changes, and then some people will object and complain again because it's cold, right? So then it goes back to hot. Yes, duality is the way of life, and we need to understand that. It cannot be all one. If all we have is fire, then we won't know or understand heat because we don't know what cold is, because this is all we know. So we don't know what cold is. When we know what cold is, we understand what heat is. When we know what heat is, we understand what cold is. We need the two because that's the nature of this life, duality. And that is governed by the law of polarity. Yes? So, we've been looking at the essential laws. And we said that we looked at 8 essential laws, and we know that these laws are universal laws, and we can also call them laws of nature because they are the means by which our world continues to thrive and exist. So let me ask you a question. How successful would you be at playing a game if you had no idea of the rules? If you have no idea of the rules, how successful will you be at playing that game? You'll be just guessing, right? Trying to figure out hit and miss, you know? So there are laws that govern this life, universal laws, spiritual laws, laws of nature that are the unwavering and unchanging principles that rule our entire universe. And to understand the universal laws is to know the rules of the game. When we understand the laws, it means that we know the rules of the game. And therefore, if you know the rules of the game, you know how to play and win, right? So, some of the essential learning that you would have received from the laws, the universal laws, because the question is there, but I am saying that by now you know that universal laws are unchanging principles that rule our entire universe. So, some of the lessons that you should have learned as we went through the universal laws, that you need to be aware of the power of your thoughts. Thoughts are energy. Thoughts are things. Thoughts do things. Be aware of the power of your thoughts, because where your focus goes, your energy flows. Right? The key is to cultivate a mindset of abundance and positivity. When you understand the power of the mind, you recognize that if you cultivate a mindset of abundance and positivity, life will be much brighter. Yes? And we need to allow others to be and allow ourselves to be. So many people spend their life never being themselves because they're fitting into a code or a mood to please somebody, and they are dissatisfied with their own life. But this is your life. And if you understand the laws that govern the life, then you can truly live a life that you love. And in the process, you will be able to allow others to be themselves. You won't want them to be like you because you are you, they are them. And of course, offer no resistance to what life brings to you. It is what it is. We have a tendency, to just keep arguing, and it shouldn't be, and this couldn't be, and it wouldn't be, and why, and how. And we need to accept that it is what it is. So if you broke your leg, it's painful, it's inconvenient, it will put some problems in your way, but it is what it is. It's a broken leg. What do? You have to fix it. You have to go to the hospital. You have to get attended to. You have to put on a cast. So instead of fretting and fussing and fighting about it, accept it. It is what it is. And do what needs to be done instead of resisting and fighting. Right? Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't things to fight for. Don't twist the story, yeah? But in terms of our relationship with life and understanding that there are certain essential universal laws that guide how life goes, and that we are given certain potentials and certain gifts that we can use, and if we work with them, because the master builder knew what he was doing, and he knows what he is doing, and he also knows what he will be doing. So let's give him some kudos for being almighty and all wisdom and all knowledge and all understanding, and work with the framework that he gave us. So we need to be grateful in order to function on the higher vibration, because on the scale of the frequency of vibration, love and gratitude are at the highest levels of the vibration. When we function in love and gratitude, we have more ease, because then we are more in harmony with the essential laws. And so we appreciate the duality of life. It can't always be hot, it has to be cold sometimes. It won't always be cold, it's going to be hot sometimes. As the song says, there's got to be a morning after. And the word of God says, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. The weeping can't go on forever. So it may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And with that understanding of the duality of life, you know that the joy that comes in the morning can't go on forever. So you may have joy all day, but you may have some weeping again in the night. That's the nature of the world that we live in as spiritual beings, sojourning in physical form, having a human experience. And part of what we need to learn is to wait on the Lord. Psalm 37 tells us, wait on the Lord and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land. So, remember, the laws, the essential laws, the universal laws, are the means by which our world continues to thrive and exist. And now you know that universal laws operate in a predictable manner, whether you know them or not, or whether you accept them or not. But when you learn them, you can work in harmony with them. And so I did see that this is for the children's sake. Where do they come in? Where do they come in? Remember, children learn what they live. And what you believe directly affects how you live. And you cannot give what you don't have. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else because you don't have love to give. If you don't understand how the laws work, how life functions, that you are a spiritual being, and that this is just a journey that you're on, then you can't pass that knowledge on to the children if you don't have it. And when you bear in mind that what you believe directly affects how you live, you work on your thoughts, your beliefs, your perceptions, and therefore you are able to offer to the children experiences that will afford them to improve their thoughts and their perceptions, and therefore be able to create a life that they can love living and be able to access that more abundant life that Christ came to give. You see, it's all there. But if we are not aware of it, we can't make the best use of it. And the children's future depends on your teaching, and it depends on the experiences that you afford them. And that's why what we're doing is for the children's sake. So even if you settle on your old stupid ways that you have, try and understand that for the children's sake, you need to improve the harmony, the vibration, the gratitude, the love, the allowing, the understanding of the power of your thoughts, so that you don't keep telling the children you're stupid and you're worthless and you ain't gonna be nothing. Because when you keep telling them that, those are the thoughts that are going into their head. Those are the thoughts they're going to keep and nurture, and those are going to shape the perception they have of life. And if I believe that I'm stupid or worthless and I ain't gonna be nothing, even though you send me to a class that you pay how much money for, because you've already pounded into me that are stupid and are worthless and I ain't gonna be nothing, I can't make the best use of what you're paying for. And even for the teachers who, when the children come to them, decide that perhaps because of where they come from, or perhaps because of how they look, or perhaps because of the way they dress, that they ain't worth their time, and therefore they will tell them that they're stupid and they can't do nothing and they don't want to hear them, and they put them at the back of the class. What they are doing is creating a perception of life for those children that will prevent them from having the best life that they could, because they're going to be boxed in. Thoughts are powerful things. Thoughts are energy. Energy vibrates. Vibrations attract like vibrations. You know, there's some people who are always complaining. And the more they complain, the more they get things to complain about. And then they wonder why they always have to be complaining, because that's what you love to do. And even though your spirit may not love it, because of your thoughts and the power of your thoughts and the laws that govern the spiritual realm, if you keep focusing on those thoughts, you're going to attract things on that focus. You're operating on a frequency, and therefore, whatever is on that frequency is going to come to you. Because that's the frequency you're giving out, that's the frequency you will receive. So if you want to receive better, then you have to give better. That's why the good book says it's better to give than to receive, because it is at the level that you give that you receive. That's the message there. It's better to give than to receive, because it is at the level that you give that you will receive. You see, there are lots of, they're not really hidden because they're hidden in plain sight, but there are lots of guidance that the Word of God provides for us, that the persons who taught us the Word didn't open up for us because they wanted to keep us in subjection. They wanted us to be submissive and obedient to them. So they taught us all kinds of nonsense about ourselves. And the sad thing is that even as we grow and we get exposure and we learn and we understand, we are so hooked on what we've become accustomed to that we don't want to let go of it. And we perpetuate their deeds for them so they don't have to do it anymore. So they used to tell us we can't talk and we strip it and we can't be anything and we can't reach anywhere. And they don't have to tell us that anymore because we are telling ourselves and our children the things that they used to tell us. So their job is over. We're perpetuating it for them. It is time for us to wake up and to be aware that we live in a world of abundance. We live in a world where we can create the life we want to live by what Bob Marley says, freeing the mind, right? Freeing the mind. Because that's where it happens. Everything that happens there first. It's like you keep saying to somebody, I will knock you down, I will knock you down, I will knock you down, And the first opportunity that comes, you know what you're going to do? You're going to knock them down. And then you say, well, oh God, how I do that? Because you've been telling yourself that all the time. So then you didn't have to think to do it. That's why we learn by repetition. Because when we repeat things, they get stuck inside of there. And then they operate without even having to think. So it becomes automatic. We have to be aware of the power of our thoughts. And we have to cultivate the mindset of abundance and positivity that will help us to move in harmony and to create a life that we love living. Create by choice, not by default. Let's take Paul's advice. And whatsoever things are lovely, and whatsoever things are good, and whatsoever things are pure. Let's think on those things. Because we'll be functioning on a frequency and the vibration will attract like vibration. Yes? So we've come to the end of our time for this lesson. And I want to thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed the session as much as I have enjoyed sharing it with you. And if perhaps you came in late or perhaps you missed the session, know that the sessions are available on the YouTube channel Abundant Life Mastery at the Core, so that you can always go back to the channel and you can review the lessons. And if you've missed any lessons, go back and go through them, because they all add up, parts of a whole, right? So we're putting the pieces together. So if you've missed any, you may go back and look at them, and some things that may be said and you wonder, where's that coming from? If you go back and you look at the other lessons, you'll find that you understand them better. All right, so I'm inviting you to visit Abundant Life Mastery at the Core and look at Life Love Lessons. There are 3 series. This is the 3rd one that we are on, and this one is dedicated to the children. So see you next Monday, same time, same place, for more Life Love Lessons. And this time it's for the children's sake. And yes, we do have a few minutes so that you can ask your questions or make your comments in the chat, where I would be able to see them. So I'm seeing in the chat, yes, hi and hello. Nice to see you. Nice to have you with me. So we have a question: in families where we see daddy abuses mommy and then mommy abuses the child, then the child manifests bullying, how can these principles take hold to bring change? And yes, these principles can take hold to bring change once we are aware of them. That is the essence, becoming aware of what is possible and how things really work. When we are stuck in the belief that we are just physical beings, then we do not put much focus or much value on our spirituality. And therefore, we do not understand that we connect directly with the Creator Spirit that created us and that He lives in us. And if you go back to some of the earlier lessons, you'll see where it is explained in diagrams, etc., that connection between the human being, which is in fact a spiritual being sojourning for a period in physical form. You'll see that connection. And with the super senses and the laws that we've looked at, you begin to understand how it works. And therefore, we can stop the flow of the present abuse by becoming aware of the value and the principles and putting them into action. Awareness is what makes the difference. Once you become aware, it's like they say, when you've seen something, you can't unsee it. So once you understand that, okay, so daddy may not have had the understanding because of the experiences that he has and the perception that he has, and then mommy carries it on, because again, fitting into the same perception and putting it on the poor children, and then they do the same thing. So we have to break the cycle by learning. And that's why the first lessons were about grounding and growing and learning and then loving, right? And forgiving came after that. Yes, so that it's a process. And It's available, right? So that once you become aware, it will make a big difference to what is happening. And that's why this series is for the children's sake, so that we can understand the value of our children and the value of what we do to them and how we are responsible for what they are doing now. They are just reaping the crops that we sow. That's what's happening. Yes? So I hope that answers your question. And we can always share the lessons with others, you know, and perhaps we can even have some other sessions, right? Apart from uh, life love lessons, where persons who need that kind of teaching can be afforded it. Okay? So, any other question or comment coming in? Thank you so very much for your hellos and your questions. So at this time, we say bye bye. See you next Monday, same time, same place. And remember, you can always review the lessons because they are there on the channel. God bless you. See you next Monday. Bye bye.